Hey everybody. Recently I posted an update on a previous video of mine entitled Is Atheism Meaningless? It was a short update, so I'm going to link it here at the top so you can watch it and get up to speed. Basically, I compared the concept of meaning to the task of finding a needle in a haystack. The haystack represented the natural world, and the needle represented the meaning. My point was that it is not possible for meaning to be in the natural world unless an outside entity, what we would call God, placed meaning into the natural world, like someone would place a needle into a haystack. This video seems to have upset many people, including one person who goes by the name of Bionic Dance. This person took my video and made their own video, which I'm going to link in the description below. Bionic Dance took the opposite view of mine, and stated that we actually create our own meaning. So let's take a look at a clip.
Meaning comes from us. There is no needle to find in a haystack. We make the needle from the hay.
I would first like to say that this conclusion isn't even true to life. We always reach outside ourselves to find meaning. Even if you say things like, my family gives me meaning, or my job gives me meaning, these things are always outside ourselves. People are searching for some deeper meaning, almost as if that desire is built into us. But if we created the meaning, then people should basically be able to sit in the corner and feel completely satisfied with their life. But this is never the case. If one thinks of humans as purely material beings, then it would also be impossible for us to create meaning from the natural material world because materials can only reshape other materials. Meaning is not a natural material thing, so how could it possibly be made within a purely material world? This person actually is forced to believe that meaning is also natural because of their fixed belief on a purely material world. We will discuss why this belief is actually incoherent in a moment. First, let's take a look at another point in their video.
And you cannot claim that complex systems have purpose without being able to show what that purpose is. To have purpose, there must be a goal. Something must be accomplished. And I have never seen or heard anybody make a case for what that end game might be, which could stand up to critical scrutiny based on testable data.
No sign of purpose? A seed makes a tree that creates oxygen for an atmosphere so we can live and feeds us at the same time? Seems like a system with a purpose to me. However, if you want to say the natural world around us has no purpose, then you are actually saying, yes, atheism is meaningless. You see, if you believe people are purely natural, we then are also a part of the natural world. And if it doesn't have a purpose, then neither do we. Everyone's life would be meaningless, so forget about the idea that we can somehow create meaning out of the haystack. By going back and forth in the comments with people, it also seems that those who claim to be atheists constantly want proof in order to accept that God exists. They say they require proof and not faith. Well, let's take a look at atheism. Atheism, by the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, is the denial of the existence of God. First off, I've heard it said many times before that people are born atheists. By the definition, you can see that this is not correct. In order to be born an atheist, you would first have to understand the concept of God before you could deny that concept. Babies would have no concept of God to deny him, and if you want to say they do have a concept of God, then this is just another point for theism. Secondly, if you deny God exists, then you should only be drawing your conclusions based on hard natural science because you would only deal in the natural, not the supernatural. The problem is that by definition it is impossible to disprove the existence of God using natural science because God is supernatural by definition. What this means is that if the conclusion God does not exist cannot be scientifically verified, then the conclusion that God does not exist or the denial of his existence must be taken on faith. So I find it very interesting when atheists say they need proof, not faith, when in fact their own belief requires more faith than theism. By this, atheism actually self-destructs. I myself was an atheist at one point, and I will admit, when I was an atheist, it was based on emotion and not hard science. When it comes to belief in God, despite popular belief, this faith is actually evidence-based. It's the same as a man having faith in his wife. A man cannot know that his wife will be faithful to him, but he has faith based upon the evidence in their relationship. This is the same when it comes to a relationship with God. The fact of the matter is that there are simply no good pieces of evidence that say that God does not exist. Yet there is a lot of evidence that would lead people to believe that God does exist. Here are a few. From an article by the Scientific American, which I will link below. For decades, computer scientists have strived to build machines that can calculate faster than the human brain and store more information. They've now created one called the K from Fujitsu. The only problem is the internet servers worldwide would fill a small city, and the K sucks up enough electricity to power 10,000 homes. The incredibly efficient brain consumes less juice than a dim light bulb, and fits nicely inside our head. I'm also willing to bet that the K from Fujitsu cannot self-heal if someone scratches the hardware, yet the brain can do just that. So it took many scientists decades to create something that still doesn't match the amazing abilities of the human brain. But somehow it's okay to assume that instead of an outside intelligence, the brain was created by nothingness, plus randomness, plus time. This just doesn't add up. How about the fact that genetic information, or information in general, was on this planet and in the universe before humans were? It seems to me that information is processed by minds, and then received by minds. It's the same as me creating this video information and you receiving it. If we take that process one step back, then it would be easy to assume that the original information in the universe was created by an outside mind that could then be received by our minds. Like I said in my last video, in the beginning was the Word. How about this recent research out of Harvard? In 2012, researchers were able to take DNA and encode 70 billion digital copies of a book into it. So first off, if you have code encoded into DNA code, you can already take another logical step. If you have DNA code, especially a code as complex as this, we can automatically assume that it was written by an outside intelligence. This would be the same as a software designer creating software. The programmer always starts on the outside of the virtual reality of the code, so we can easily assume DNA was written by an entity that is outside the natural universe. This is the only hypothesis that makes any sense. Secondly, look at what they say at the top here. Using next-generation sequencing technology and a novel strategy to encode 1,000 times the largest data size previously achieved in DNA, Harvard geneticist encodes his book in life's language. Life's language? Let's reflect back to what Bionic Dance said about this topic.
Our words have meaning that we gave them. Without that meaning, they'd just be sounds, but we decided that certain sounds made in a certain order would indicate certain things like actions, objects, concepts, colors, etc., and sounds in other orders would string them together to form more complicated meanings. But those meanings were not given to us. We had to make them in order to communicate with each other.
So if you want to basically say that we created language, then you would have to explain who created life's language. Did we also create our own DNA? Absolutely not. Even by their own premise for the development of our language, life's language would also need to have been created by an outside intelligence. If we go back to the article from Harvard, we see this quote from one of the main researchers of the experiment. Quote, "We wanted to illustrate how the modern world is really full of zeros and ones, not A's through Z's alone. So if the modern world is coded in ones and zeros, like DNA is coded, that means we are living in a designed reality, my friends. Designed realities have designers. So really, how much more evidence do you need? The language of the universe is staring you right in the face, the ultimate meaning. And who is that ultimate meaning? The Word. Jesus is the ultimate meaning, whether you believe it or not. He is the source of the universe, the language of the universe, and He is waiting to talk to you. Why don't you take the next step and start talking to Him? Look back on my previous videos to see why Jesus is the truth, and stay tuned for more updates. Subscribe to this channel, but follow Jesus. Remember, the way of the truth means life, so we need to listen when the truth speaks.